Welcome to our series of educational videos on immigration. Today, we will discuss refugees. Next slide, please. Today, we'll discuss the definition of a refugee, how they come to the US, and what happens after refugees arrive. Under the United Nations Convention on Refugees of 1951, a refugee is defined as an individual living outside their country because of fear of persecution. I would like to stress this only need be a fear. You don't have to show that you were persecuted, only that you fear it. So usually threats are given as evidence. The persecution must be based on 5 grounds. Next slide, please. So the 5 grounds are race, religion, nationality, political opinion, and a particular social group. In the US, gender is usually included as the particular social group, and therefore gender violence is a type of persecution accepted under these grounds. Next slide, please. The refugee process in the US has multiple stages, and all of them usually happen outside the US in a third country. So first, refugees are referred to the US Refugee Admission Program through the United States Embassy in that country, or a consulate, or the UNHCR. And then it is determined if the refugee qualifies as a refugee. After that, several US departments will have security checks, there are medical checks. And then finally, if all other things are done, you will get your travel document as a refugee. However, before that final step, there's one more check. We'll talk about that in the next slide. So this process, the steps 1, 2, 3, as I described earlier, the medical checks and security checks, that usually takes up to 2 years. But before you can get your travel document, you also, as a refugee, must be included in the number determined by the president each year. So in the fiscal year of 2020, the presidential determination was 18,000, which means that from October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, 18,000 refugees were allowed in. They were capped at the number 18,000. So as a refugee, after 2 years of going through this process, you find out that you are the 18,001 refugee, that your number is 18,001. You will not be able to travel to the US. You will have to restart this whole process again and hope that when it's finished, you will be back into that number. This is how difficult this process is. In FY 2021, the presidential determination for refugees is 125,000. Next slide, please. Once refugees are able to travel and their travel is booked to the US, they receive a loan to buy their ticket. Once they get to the US, they have 1 year to pay back that loan, the loan from the US government. And after they arrive, for about 6 to 8 months, they have various programs that they're eligible for. Refugees are expected to restart their entire lives in 6 to 8 months and pay back a loan in 12 months. As you can imagine, this is extremely difficult, if not impossible. But refugees do persevere and are successful, as we know. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, the refugee number for the US is 125,000 for the fiscal year 2021. However, the number of refugees around the world is 26.4 million. Even if we meet our goal of 125,000 refugees this year, it will be less than 1% of the entire world's refugee population. As we end this video on refugees, I hope that it was useful to understand that refugees are not overwhelming the US, but they're lifting it up. And I will hope that you will join us for other educational videos that we have. Thank you. Please send us any questions you might have, And please sign up to become a member at www.networklobby.org. Thank you.